Hey, this is Jill Ciminillo, and I'm here today with...
Tim Esterdahl.
And we're trying something a little bit different. Tim is making me lead because he's going on vacation next week. So I'm leading the news recap. And so let's see how this goes. Let's get this party started. We've got we're going to try and keep it a little bit shorter this week. And we do have a couple of, I think, relatively good news items going on. And so we will just pull up the first item. These are Tim's selections, by the way. So let's look at this one right here, and we like this format. I think there we go.
Yes, there we go. That's the good format. So I'm basically bringing this one up because I haven't had a chance to write it up. It just got launched today. Yeah, today.
5 hours ago.
Yeah. So Stellantis issues 2 recalls, combined 256,000 vehicles. And another reason I want to bring this up is recalls, as you'll see in a minute on our website, are all over the place. People are recalling all sorts of stuff. The basic synopsis of this is right below that little graphic there. Related articles. You have a bunch of Grand Cherokees, a bunch of Ram 1500 models that have a high pressure fuel pump failure that may cause fuel starvation problems. Now that's all eco-diesels. That's that Gen 2 eco-diesel that they had to settle with the U.S. government because they inflated the mile per gallon numbers. Then they had people's updates didn't do so as well because the updated system didn't have much fuel economy. The whole Gen 2 eco-diesels continues to see a lot of concern from consumers. And then another recall they have as well was 117,000 2022 Ram 1520 and basically 3/4 ton, 1 ton, half ton are being recalled because the software can prevent backup cameras from displaying in reverse. Now, some people will say this is not a big deal, backup camera. Actually, it's a NHTSA requirement for safety. Mm-hmm. And when they do not work properly, they have to recall them. And this is interesting. They're going to fix it with a software update. Whoops. They have the incompatibility between the radio and the camera and whatever. So yeah, safety software update. But those backup cameras, people sometimes dismiss or whatever. Those are mandatory safety equipment now, and if they never work, they have to be recalled.
Yeah, I feel like it was 2019 that became a mandatory thing. Mm-hmm. You had to have a backup camera. And the article isn't clear whether or not it will be an over-the-air update or you actually have to physically bring your vehicle in. So, I mean, I
don't think Ram does over-the-air updates currently.
Right. Well, and we're talking about 2014 to 2020, so still
right, and the backup camera is different than your radio infotainment system. So like with the Tundra, I have a recall for that. The backup camera is a different computer, so I have to take it in for service. But if it was a radio issue, I could have that over-the-air update, which I think is an interesting distinction. Most people don't get, and I didn't get it either. I was like, what the heck's going on? So that was that story.
Okay, so recalls from Stellantis. Then
and this is another story. I just want to pull a story out because this is great. I'm talking over Jill. I'm sorry. This is a very interesting story in the drive. I read it. It's very well thought out, and it's not as political as you think it's going to be. They have a really interesting title because of that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out, okay, so we all know electric vehicles are dirtier or cause more pollution when you build them. But the idea is over the lifetime of ownership, you will get to a net zero proposition that actually will help environmentally. And so what they did was they said, okay, let's do some math. So they took the 2 worst vehicles you could think of. They took a Ram TRX with 12 miles per gallon of fuel economy. They took the 9,000-pound Hummer EV, and they put them together. And as Jill scrolls down, you'll see a chart here in a little bit where they have these 2 together, and then there's a better chart at the end. But these 2, that chart right there. So what they're saying is at 37,000 miles, the Ram TRX and Hummer EV will hit the apex. They'll coincide with having the same pollution. Once you get beyond that mark, then you will see some pollution benefits with the Hummer. Now, I've always thought is 3 years of ownership is kind of what I was always told as far as carbon neutral. And well, 12,000 miles times 3, yeah, is about 3 years of ownership. But what's really interesting with this, what's really get me fired up, is when you scroll down, they did a massive chart and they put all these different vehicles together. They put cars with trucks with the hybrid power boost versus the electric Lightning. And this chart is just fascinating. And one of the things I pull up from this chart, again, go read it. Great job by the drive. Give them lots of props on this. Is the Ford Maverick Hybrid. If you do the Ford Maverick Hybrid versus like F-50 Lightning, it's 144,000 miles on the Ford Maverick Hybrid before it hits the point with the Lightning where it equals out.
So I'm looking at this chart and I'm like, what in the hell am I looking at? Like, this does not make sense to me.
So on the left is
And I have
pollution.
not read the story, so maybe the moral of the
Right. Yeah.
story is
You got to read the story, because the story, when you read the story, the chart makes a lot more sense. But basically, on the left of this chart is going to be your pollution.
okay.
And let's see, let me do it. So this estimated kilogram CO2 plus greenhouse gases emissions on the left, and then on the right is how many miles it goes across. So like if you take, this is the Rivian right there. If you take the Maverick and you go across to that red pickup on the corner, that's the Rivian.
Yeah.
That's 140,000 miles until those lines intersect. So that's what they're trying to say here is yeah, if you were to buy a Ram TRX, sure, you have a lot more pollution, a lot faster. Hummer doesn't really, it's such a big vehicle, it causes so much pollution as it's been built. But yes, it depends on the vehicle you're buying. Depends who goes across. So like if you look at the Maverick is down below, the Ford Lightning's right above it. If you follow those lines across, you will see that it exceeds 140,000 miles till those lines finally, theoretically, if this chart was a little bit bigger, they would meet together.
Okay, so looking at the chart, it's saying that like the beginning of the chart is more pollution for the build, and then it becomes less pollution as it drives. Is that like
right?
Yeah?
Because because when you, especially with our energy usage right now, whether
Mhm.
some states are using lots of coal, some states using lots of nuclear, water, whatever. If you just do the numbers, like just basically from the overall United States, and again, every state's a little bit different. So like Nebraska, the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid versus the full EV, it takes even longer because we have such a coal-driven state. But if you just take those numbers together, like across the span of the United States, and put them together with the amount of miles are driven till they, if you're doing the math in the CO2s per mile, that's what they're trying to get at.
So the Rivian would be 140,000 miles before it becomes carbon neutral, whereas looking at something like the Maverick, it's 40,000 miles.
So the Rivian, the Maverick would be the same as the Rivian at 144,000 miles. It had the same pollution. Once you get beyond that, then the Rivian becomes less pollution, because you can see that arc of that line for the Maverick is going up faster than the Rivian's going up.
Yeah,
And
I can't
Rivian and
even tell.
Lightning basically have the same kind of arc. So, anyways,
Okay,
read the
so
story.
read the story. That would be the moral of that story, is read the story. So I will go back and do that. And I'm going to point out, Tim did not send me these links until like literally I hit the record button. So I did not have the chance to prep in advance, and I apologize. So now let us move on to our own website. If I can get the Apple's swirling vortex to go away. So
Jill, do you know about these stories in this website?
no, I did. I've never seen them before. What's this website? I don't know what this is. Since we last talked, we'll start at the beginning. So Hyundai Palisade announced their pricing, and they also, for the 2023 models, so we saw that in New York, they got a refresh at the New York Auto Show. And so 2023, not all new, same powertrain, but it'll get an XRT trim, and prices will increase between about $1,300 and $1,600 depending on low end or high end trim. And by the way, if you hear that ding, that's because Phil is messaging us right now. He does not realize we are recording. So
he's our video editor.
He's our video editor. So I apologize for the ding. I can't make that go away on my browser because it's pinned. Sorry. So the base price goes up $1,300, and then when you look at the calligraphy trim, that's up about $1,600. But the XRT, that's kind of the really cool thing here, because this is going to be a more rugged off-road looking vehicle, but it also has some functional things like skid plates and roof rail, like cross rails that you can put like kayaks and stuff on top. So that's kind of cool. You also will have, speaking of recalls, we have the Ford Mustang Mach-E recall, and this is due to a safety defect. Tim wrote this story, and it is basically it has a recall and a stop sale. So until this is fixed, they are not selling the vehicles. And what we're looking at here is loss of power. So I from the gist of what I understand that you wrote is, could happen when you're driving. It could happen when it's not, you're not driving, but yeah.
Yeah, basically the power connectors just fail.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason for it, and they're gonna have to work on that. But yeah, And the thing that's impressive of that is they built 100,000 Mach-E's during that time period, and they're recalling nearly 50,000 of them. So nearly half of all Mach-E's built they're recalling. And I think that recall gets even bigger. I don't understand why they just do 50,000, but maybe there's a parts issue, something going on, which sounds consistent with the rest of the world right now.
Yeah. I mean, so it could be a parts issue, you know, and I don't know. But so we have another recall we're going to be posting tomorrow, another Ford vehicle. We also have a recap of a video Tim did about a month or so ago about how he feels about his Toyota Tundra. So we describe it a little bit here, and then you're going to have to watch the video to figure out whether or not it's a lemon and he hates it.
And basically, I got asked that question so many times, I finally made a video out of it. And I don't know. I guess I have a negative viewpoint these days, and I don't know.
You negative viewpoint?
Yeah, I guess. Speaking of negative viewpoint, the next story is the one that I had to fight to get written.
No, you did not have to fight to get it written. You just needed to get your facts straight, Buckaroo. He wanted to like write a story where he was like, "You can't buy this truck; it doesn't exist." And I'm like, "No, that's not actually true."
All right, so the story is this. I heard so many media outlets talk about how great the Ford F-150 Lightning is, the Pro version, the $40,000 version, the 230-mile version of this truck. And I think it's great. If you can buy one, fantastic. I'm not going to argue with that. $40,000 for a full-size truck these days, I mean, my goodness, that's a steal. But when you actually start diving and digging into it, what we learned is that a lot
we already knew this. You learned in the process. A
lot of the first initial allotment of or allocation of these trucks was snapped up by commercial buyers. And so unless you had some sort of golden ticket or you're really lucky,
I don't know that we know that they were actually snapped up by commercial buyers. All we know is that they were snapped up.
Well, I thought we heard commercial. Anyways, so they were snapped up. What I found when I talked to my local dealer was I called my local dealer and they said, no, you as a retail customer cannot order one. That's what the verbiage I got back from them. And so I reached out to Ford. And Emma Berg, I think she got quoted in the story, and she basically said, look, it's not as easy as walking in a dealership and telling the dealership person you want one of these trucks. There is allocations, there are order banks, there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not so, you see the stuff in the press, stuff we see on YouTube, stuff we see elsewhere. It's not so easy to buy this truck. I think eventually it will be for in future years from now. I do worry that with the rising costs of raw materials for EVs, that truck price point is going to increase over the years, just because, and not because of probably driven because EVs have increased in price, but also because the whole market has increased. Every time I turn around, a Silverado increased price or a Ford F-150 increased price, whatever. And so I think personally, if you get one of these $40,000 Ford Lightning Pros with 230 miles of range, which is adequate for a lot of people, I think you have a golden ticket. I think you have the one. I feel like over time we're going to see pricing change, because it is really strange where they make a $40,000. They make a 300-mile range Pro version that you cannot buy because that's commercial only. And then once you step up to the XLT, the base XLT is like $54,000. So it's quite a bit of a price jump. Yeah. And that was my point in the story. I wasn't trying to say you can't buy one. I was trying to say it's a terrible truck and that kind of stuff. I'm saying, look, if you can get one, get one. If you can't, understand that allocations are an issue, and people are. I believe commercial operations buying them. I think we had a couple comments on YouTube that reinforce that as well. But anyways, if you can find one, buy one. If you can't, well, that's kind of what's going on.
No, and I mean, just so to parse this out just a little bit to be clear, here's what happened. I think it's something like 150, 200,000 people placed a reservation for a Ford F-150 Lightning. So they started at the top of the list and they're like, what trim would you like to buy? And then they've been working their way down on the list of allocations. Like, okay, you made a reservation. What do you want to buy? Well, I'm just say they're going to build 100,000 and they said, we'll build 20,000, totally making that number up, 20,000 of the $40,000 base truck. Well, maybe the first 20,000 people wanted that truck. So then they're out. Now you can only get an XLT or a limited or a platinum. So, I mean, that's the gist of the story. It's available for retail customers. You can, in fact, buy it. But for 2022, that allocation is sold out. And we've seen that before with other Ford vehicles. And it's always confusing. It's always confusing because we did a story about a year ago about the Ford Maverick when that sold out of the hybrid allocations. And So it's always confusing.
And people lost their minds. I mean,
they're like, what do you mean they're not making it anymore? It's like, well, it's not that they're not making it. It's just that they've sold out. So, so it's available. It just sold out. So the last story I just want to call attention to here on the website, I attended the Cadillac Escalade V drive last week in Arizona. And so I've got my first look review up here. And the gist is I liked it. It drives really well. It's got great horsepower. It's fast. But there are a couple of things that I didn't like. And I'm not going to tell you what they are because I want you to read the story.
There you
go.
There
you go.
All right. So we should go to YouTube next. So what happened this week in the YouTube's world? We had lots of stuff going on. We had a Subaru Solterra, good, bad. I did a story on video on the midsize truck reliability. That was an old post on the website. We have the resale value, the top truck's resale value, your Cadillac Escalade V video. We have the Hyundai Palisade calligraphy, and then we have our truck news recap. So we have, I thought some really good stuff this week as far as reliability and resale, which is two big topics for me that I think are really important.
Yeah. So we've been busy. We've got a lot more videos coming. I do want to point out that Good Things, Bad Things in the Solterra was actually shot on location at the Midwest Automotive Media Association spring rally. So we literally had 20 minutes with this vehicle. And unfortunately, Subaru does not provide B-roll. So
you learned that post the event.
Post-event. So we do give our good and bad things and a lot of driving impressions, but just no limited time with the vehicle. So
okay, so we should get to your rant this week, shouldn't we?
No, it's your rant. I don't have a rant.
My rant this week.
I know.
So I had a Jaguar F-Pace, and I have a video review coming out of that. And I had a bit of an issue with it, which I thought was bizarre, that I had this issue with a Jaguar. I thought it was really strange.
Can we talk about how you're pronouncing that word before we get into your rant? Because that could be my rant.
How am I saying it wrong?
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Jaguar. It's not Jaguar. All right. So here's Tim's rant this week.
One of the things I was really surprised with is this. My golf clubs don't fit. Isn't that weird? I think with a luxury SUV, those guys play a lot of golf, I'd imagine. And I'm surprised that it doesn't fit, like at all. I have to go, yeah, it's right here. There's a cutout right there. I can't get over. I'm just like, why would you do that? Like, I know automakers have a set of golf clubs in their designing room, use it as a measurement to see how wide it is. I actually design vehicles with cutouts back here by the rear wheels to make sure that things fit. And yeah, so what? It fits like that. Okay, fine. My deal was when I had a couple friends with me, two of us went down to play golf. If we had a third person, we'd been kind of screwed because all our golf clubs had to fit like this. And it takes away the seating. So I'm just so surprised by that. You can't add more back here. Huh. Weird.
Okay, and excuse the lawnmower man behind me because he naturally wanted to mow at the same time. But my point there is that most automakers have a set of golf clubs and they put like cutouts around those wheels to fit in. And so when you add more than two people, you add 3-4 people on a golf trip, your stuff doesn't fit, which I thought was just surprising. I was really surprised by that. And it's a first world problem. Not many people can have that problem, but from a cargo carrying, point of view, I just was really surprised that they didn't take a little more time on that.
Yeah, I mean, because you're right. People who buy that vehicle probably are going to be golfing. But I will point out, we have a GTI, and my husband fits his clubs in the back of the GTI just fine.
Yeah, no, if you're by yourself, like I had by myself was fine.
Okay,
I mean, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't awesome as it could be, but it was fine. But I'm just saying, when you have 2, 3, 4 people, like that vehicle sits 4. The 4 of you guys could go golfing. You can't fit them in the club. You can't fit 4 people with golf clubs. It doesn't work.
Okay.
A midsize SUV, I was so surprised by that.
Okay. All right. So that's a passable rant. I'll give you that one. Yes. All right. So anything you want to preview for next week?
I'd like to preview my vacation, but I don't think I'm going to give those details out. So the only preview is Jill's taking over. Yep. And so you'll have live stream. She's got to do news recap. So yeah, give her some love there, guys.
Yes, please. Be kind and be patient because I'm while I'm more tech savvy than Tim is, he's been doing this longer. This is my first go at this. So I think I did pretty good for like setting this up on the fly this evening. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I love how I get like that passive, like, good job, Tim, in that situation. Yeah, I hear you.
I have no idea what you're talking about. All right, so that's what we have for this week's news recap. Be sure to visit us on the web at pickuptrucktalk.com. You've got our social media handles down at the bottom in the right-hand corner, so make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We do post there. And YouTube. You got to watch our videos. So there you go. That's where you are right now. That should be easy. Just watch the next video, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch the next video. All right. So that's what we've got for this week. So thanks for watching, and we will see you down the road.
Bye. Okay, so how long to end the broadcast?